Hi everybody, welcome to the live stream. I'm Tisa Blackburn and I am your acrylic diva. Today we're going to do a beautiful painting, kind of a forest scene, and we're going to paint like the Fauves and a little bit like David Hockney, okay? So let's get started. All right, we're here at the overhead camera. I've got my three colors out here. Everything's in your description that you need. We'll start with Quin Magenta, Phthalo Blue, Benzimidazzolone Yellow, and Titanium White. Those are the only three colors you really need. Every once in a while I'll add in some Pyrrole Red, but for the most part, that's all you're going to need. So let's start with our number, is this my number 12? Yeah, a number 12 Princeton Aqua Elite. I like to use this brush. I like the Aqua Elite brushes a lot. And like I said, everything's in your description. So we're going to start with kind of a teal sky. I'm going to first lay down a layer of titanium white. And you're going to notice that I do not put my brush in the water. Almost never put my brush in the water. And there's a simple reason for that. If you're painting an acrylic and you start bringing a lot of water back to the palette or put water on your canvas, it can really wreak havoc with your paint. So watch that. You can wash your brush, but then dry it off. And sometimes I'll do that. Most of the time I don't even wash my brush, but I definitely don't use any water in my paint. My footstool is in the way. Okay, there we go. Okay, so titanium white. Now I'm going to grab a tiny, tiny bit of Phthalo Blue. This is very, very strong, so you don't need much. We're going to just lay in our sky. And I want to get it a little bit greener. I want it to be a little bit more turquoisey. So I'm going to grab just a tiny bit of my yellow and lay that down right into that teal, right into that Phthalo Blue. And see how it just greens it up just a little bit. Might even be hard for you to see that on the camera because it's a real subtle color. Now I'm going to wipe my brush, and because I want to paint right back into the sky, I'm going to come back with my brush and pull some of that excess paint off and wipe it, and then pull some more off and wipe that. I went about halfway down. Doesn't matter exactly how far down you go because we're going to have a lot of green trees and whatnot. So, well, actually our trees are going to be pink and red and all kinds of wild stuff. We're painting like the Fauves. And if you look at some of the Fauve paintings like Matisse and André Derain and Vlaminck, those guys, you'll see they use a really bold color. So that's what we're after. All right, let's, using my same brush, I am going to put my road in. I think I'll put my road in about here. Just going to give it kind of a little indication there. So it's going to be more narrow back here and then get wider here. So if I just do like so, I kind of have a feel. Boy, you can hardly see that. I'm looking at my screen. You can barely see that on the camera. Let me adjust the camera a little bit and see if I can get you a little bit sharper or a little bit more colorful, so you can actually see the colors a little bit more. I'm going to up the saturation a little bit. Hopefully that'll help you see these really pale colors I'm using. All right, so there we go. Now I want some underpainting of greens and blues and things like that for my foresty underground. So underpainting rather. So I'm going to take my Phthalo Blue and I'm just going to block in some color. Just block it in. And you'll see I'm going right into that teal sky, which is fine. I'm just going to block that in on both sides. And I'm working a little bit drier than what I normally do. Sometimes I work in what's called an alla prima fashion, which means wet into wet. But I'm painting a little bit drier today because I want to paint back on top of these colors that I'm putting down, and I don't want them to get muddy. So that's pretty good. At least you can see that on the screen. All right, now let's come forward and have a little bit more green, less blue. And to do that, I'm just going to go right into the Benzimidazolone yellow and just bring that in. Let's make it a little bit lighter. And before too long, I'm going to have to put that road in because I want the road under the foliage, under the undergrowth. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put my road in now. And because I've got green on my brush, I really don't want my road to be muddy. So I'm going to switch over to my number 8. I'm going right into the Quin Magenta. And I'm just going to draw this road in here. Let's get some white down there. I want it to go back around the trees there. And you can see I'll have to come back and put my landforms on top of it because otherwise it'll look like it's floating in the sky. Okay, so that's pretty good for my road to begin with. All right, now I'm going to go back to my green brush, get some more of my yellow. I'm going to overlap this pink a little bit. Let's have a little more titanium white here. Have some on this side. And I'll pick up a little bit of that pink because it's wet. But that's all right, doesn't matter. So I'm just working in that underpainting. You just want to build things up in layers to give them interest and depth. And see now, because I put those bushes over the road looks like it lays down. Otherwise, it just looks like it's a vertical road. Okay. I'm just putting down some really loose brush strokes here for the underpainting. A little titanium white here. Now ordinarily I would put this aside and let it dry for a few minutes, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to go right into painting the trees and whatnot. I want some really bright greens up here. So I'm going to go into my yellow and I'm going to just block in. Let's get a little more titanium white there. I'm going to just block in some foliage for my trees. And you're wondering, why did I paint the sky if I'm just going to paint on top of it? Well, I say this all the time about trees. Trees are not solid objects, so they need to have air. So you'll see the sky behind the trees. If you don't paint the sky, there's nothing to see behind the trees. So make sure you do that. Make sure you think in layers, you know. So I'm going to put another bunch of foliage over here. I'm going to pick up a little of that phthalo blue. And come down here. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Right now it looks pretty chaotic, doesn't it? But we're gonna work on that. So let's get some more yellow here. And I'm painting trees this time without my fan brush, which is usually not what I do. I just noticed that I did something really strange to my camera. So sorry about that. Let's change it back. And oh man, that was really crazy. Okay. All right, let's continue on with our foliage. I'm going to go into the phthalo blue and I'm going to make a little bit smaller brush strokes. And I think over here, instead of vertical, we're going to go to the side a little bit. I'm really inspired by those wonderful paintings that David Hockney did, and also Matisse, of course, but a lot of David Hockney's paintings when he was back in England, they're just gorgeous. So we're going to have a little bit over here. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good. Now, before I start putting tree trunks in, I really need to work on my ground here. So I'm going to go to my number 8. Are you my number 8? Or are you my number 6? Yeah, you're my number 8. And it's got a lot of Quin Magenta on it. I think that's going to be okay though. Let's see. I'm gonna wash it, and then I'm going to wipe it really, really well and make sure it's really dry. Really dry. Okay. Now let's break up some of this back here. Let's go in with our yellow. And let's just, it still feels like it has a little water in it. Let's just put down some areas that, you know, just break it up. We don't want a big blob of blue or a big blob of green. So you just want to break these things up. Sort of like the Impressionists did. They didn't go in and paint every single leaf. They implied a lot. So that's what we're going to do. We'll just imply these different areas of foliage. Let's get a nice green going here. A little more yellow. Over here we'll have a little bit of yellow. Now you'll see that when I put that yellow down, it's a more transparent pigment. So if you need to make that opaque so that the blue doesn't show from behind, add a little titanium white to it. Just what I'm going to do right here. And you can see when I put that paint stroke down that it's not transparent. Sometimes it's really handy though for a transparent color. You can actually build up layers, transparent layers. So sometimes that's really what you need. Okay, I think we're gonna, oops, a little bit too much blue. I'm gonna come out here, break up that edge. Let's have a little green here. Break up this edge, a little bit more of that blue. Break it up. Because when was the last time you drove down a road or walked a path in the forest and it was absolutely perfect on the sides? There's always things growing out onto the path. So just loosely imply all those different types of foliage that you'll see in along the path. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good. I always like to check on my monitor and see what you guys see. So, a little bit, I'm going to go for a lighter green here with a little bit of white in it, just to sit on top. Over here. Okay, now comes the fun part. Wipe my brush. I'm going to put some really wild tree trunks coming down into this foliage. This is the majority of our trees up here, but let's make some really fun tree trunks. Got my Quin Magenta, my titanium white, so that'll make it opaque. Now, a lot of this paint is wet, so I may end up blending a fair amount of it. We'll see. We'll see. Let's have one major tree right here in the center. I'm just going to drag all the way from the top, all the way down. And I know we're going to pick up wet paint as we go, but don't worry about it. We're just going to drag all the way down. Just establish that. You don't have to worry about anything that blended while you were painting it. We'll just come back into the Quin Magenta, refill your brush, and just come back and just really establish that tree trunk. I'm going to add a little phthalo blue because I want this guy to really be dominant. So let me wipe my brush, add a little phthalo blue. Okay. And get a little bit more Quin Magenta. We want him nice and dark. We want him to sit on top of that background of leaves and bushes and whatnot. He's the dominant sort of focus point, so we want to make sure he's dominant enough. So darken him up. All right, now let's go into the Quin Magenta, load it up good, and make sure I've got enough on my brush. And let's have a few little branches. And just barely touch. You don't have to bear down for these little branches. You don't have to push down hard on your brush. Just put those little guys in there delicately. And we'll just keep going, a few more. And you see how our forest is already coming together? Okay, let's have a few of these tree trunks back over here that are not quite as dominant. We'll have one right here. I wonder if you guys can hear that. My next door neighbor is banging on the wall. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. Okay. A little bit of titanium white. And we're going to have quite a few tree trunks here. So I'm just going to go like so. I'm going to get some white because I really want these guys to stand out. Okay, I think those could be a little more dominant. So I'm going to go into my Quin Magenta and just pull it through. Make them just pop a little bit more. Okay, now I want a really dark one over here. So I'm going to go into my phthalo blue. I've got this mixture going over here. Phthalo blue, Quin Magenta. Now to make that almost black, grab a little yellow, getting a really dark brown, but I think this feels like it has some titanium white in it, so let's start that again. We don't want any titanium white in this mixture. So, phthalo blue. And by the way, I have the chat open if you have any questions or you want to just tell me where you're coming in from, where you're watching from. I would love to know that. Okay, here is phthalo blue and Quin Magenta. Let's add a little yellow to that. We should get really close to black. With just those three colors, you can get really close to black. Okay, let's go right here. Yeah, that's a pretty good dark right there. Yep, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna leave that as it is. Okay, now I've got most of my tree trunks. I think I'm gonna leave the tree trunks. That should be enough tree trunks for now. And let's do some fun stuff. And actually, you know what? Let's have this one go off the canvas. All the way off the canvas. There. Oh yeah, that's much better. He doesn't have any branches or anything, so. And then maybe we'll have one really small dark tree back here, like so. And then one maybe a quin magenta tree, maybe right here, kind of thin. Put my branch back. There. Yeah, okay, looks good. All right, now let's go in and have some fun with the trees and the foliage and whatnot. I'm gonna take a little titanium white. What have I got on my brush? This weird purple color, so I need to wash it. I'm actually washing my brush, which I almost never do. Okay, now make sure it's nice and dry. Okay, so now we'll do a little bit of kind of a subtractive way of working. So I want to get a really bright green. I've got my titanium white and some yellow, and it looks like I picked up a little blue, and that's going to be just right for what I want. I'm going to paint back into these areas here and just make my tree a little more solid. With kind of, oops, I'm picking up a little bit of that quin magenta. Just coming in between the branches. And just kind of making that tree a little bit more solid. Let's have some of that over here. And I don't want to paint over my quin magenta tree trunk that I've got back there. Actually, I am going to paint over this part of it. While I'm looking at that quin magenta tree trunk back there, I think I'm going to paint it out because it doesn't make sense. It's like standing there all on its own. It doesn't really work. So let's paint it out. Okay. Good. All right, we're doing pretty good. Little titanium white. I'm going to come in here. I'm blending a little bit because I picked up some of that quin magenta, but I think that's going to be fine. That titanium white does a really good job of opacifying things. So I've got my tree kind of set over here. That works. Okay, now let's work on this tree over here. Let's give this one a little more green. Titanium white. There we go. And I think we'll come in on this one, sort of like this. And I am simplifying what we painted already, just to give it a sense of volume. So we'll get our two basic trees here. Let's have a little more yellow in that one. Okay, looking pretty good. All right, so we've got our two main sides of the road going there. And just checking the chat to see if we have any questions. Okay, let's wrap it up here with some fun little bits and pieces. I'll wipe my brush. And I've got some titanium white and a little coin magenta. And come in my road here and give it a little texture. It was looking a little puny there. Let's put a little yellow down too. Just like a little path through the woods, maybe. Okay. Now a little bit of floral stuff happening. Some floral things happening here around our trees. Little coin magenta, a little titanium white. Just some little things growing around the bottoms of our trees. Especially right here. Make that a little bit darker so we have some contrast to our road. So far, so good. Let's have a little bit more of that titanium white here. And right here, we'll make this kind of a nice little piece of land right here. With a little bit of growth coming out over our road. Yeah. We'll clean up some of our background here. And let's have some green things right here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm looking at it on the monitor. So it's a really easy way for me to tell how things look. By the way, if you're painting and you want to know what's going on in your painting, it's really easy if you can set it up to a mirror and take a look at it in a mirror. That will tell you what kind of problems you're having right off the bat. There's something about that that really works. Try that with your paintings. It'll amaze you. Okay, I'm going to do just a few little pink things here on our tree trunk, maybe over here. Just a little interest, you know. So our tree trunk has some interest. And, oh, I forgot that we need tree limbs. These guys need tree limbs, so we don't have any tree limbs over here. I'm going to give them a couple. They don't need many. Okay, we're winding it up. I think we're getting pretty close to finishing. One quick thing I want to do, I'm going to take my paint pen, at least I'm going to find my paint pen. My paint pen has disappeared. Let's see if this one will work. I really wanted my pink paint pen, but I can't find it. So I'm going to use this one. Let's see if this one will give us enough contrast. It doesn't really give us enough contrast. We need more contrast than that, so let's try white. We may actually have to paint these. Let's try white. That's not working either. All right, well, I'm going to have to just use paint. No paint pens, just paint. So mixing up some Quin Magenta with some titanium white to make sure I have enough contrast. I need that to be lighter. Just a few little floral things. Let's make them darker over here. Queen magenta there. Just using the tip of my number 8. Yeah, and there we've got a few of those. Let's have a couple of nice white ones right here. That's good enough. Don't overdo it with those little things. All right, well that is our walk through the forest, sort of Fauve style. And, you know, inspired by David Hockney and maybe Matisse. So have fun with that. Use those bright, bold colors. And if you like that, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell because I'm going live a lot more these days. So make sure you tune in to the next live. And as I always say, keep painting.